So it is time for the Daphne pattern sew along, and I've got all my pieces cut out. We're going to go over those first. I have 2 sleeves cut out, 2 for my shirt front, and I've interfaced the center front section on the inside of the fold line indicated on the pattern, and I have marked out the little X's with chalk, which will indicate my buttons and buttonhole placement. I've got 1 back piece cut out, 1 pocket, 4 pieces for my cuff, and 2 of them are interfaced. And I've got the markings transferred there. I've got 2 collar bands and 1 will be interfaced. I've got 2 collars, 1 will be interfaced as well. And I've got 2 pieces for my back yoke, and 1 of those will be interfaced as well. So go ahead and cut out all of your pieces, interface them as needed, make sure your markings are transferred, and let's get started. Okay, so we're starting out with the pocket that will go on the front. I have interfaced the top inch. It just helps to add a little extra stability, since you may be using things with this pocket and maybe putting things in and out of this pocket. I am using a beautiful linen fabric, by the way, from Fabric Mart Fabrics. This is not sponsored. I just love this fabric. I think it's perfect for this pattern, and I believe that it's a Maggie London fabric, but I got it from Fabric Mart, so you can go check that out. Okay, so you can fold over 1/4 of an inch and press, and then fold down 3/4 of an inch to make an inch total of folding. Just pressing that down, being careful. And then folding down about 3/4 of an inch and pressing. And then you can go stitch this down just across where you have just sewn. And then we're going to come back to the ironing board. Okay, so I've stitched that down, and my thread is matching this time. I know on my sew-alongs I tend to use a contrasting thread, but this is a real shirt that I'm going to make for myself that I want to keep, so I'm using matching thread. But I am using a green thread on the bobbin just so it could hopefully be a little more visible to you without being visible when I'm wearing the shirt. So we're just stitching 1 stitching line across there, and now we're going to fold over 1/2 an inch on the edge all the way around your pocket. Now these edges are going to be hidden on your shirt when they're stitched down, but if you have fabric that unravels, then you may want to go ahead and finish these raw edges with the serger first. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to come back and press. So now that you've got your pocket pressed, we're going to attach it to the front of the shirt. So grab the left front of your shirt, and you're going to pin your pocket as indicated on the pattern piece, and then we're going to top stitch it on. So I realized that if I were to pivot, then I wouldn't be as far down as I want to be on my pocket. So I shortened my stitch length just a little bit, and I'm going to take 1 more stitch so that I can end up where I want to be, and then I'm going to pivot, and then I'm going to change my stitch length back to what it's supposed to be, and keep stitching. Next, you want to grab your shirt back and the yoke that is interfaced, and we're going to stitch those together, right sides facing. Then press that seam allowance flat. You can finish the raw edges if you like, but you're going to press that seam allowance flat and then press it up. So now you want to take your yoke facing and you want to press, fold and press a 1/2 inch along the shoulder seams only. So go ahead and take that to your ironing board and do that. Grab your shirt back and the back facing that you just pressed those shoulder edges on, and you are going to fold that yoke out of the way, and you're working with the wrong side of your back and the right side of your yoke facing, and you're going to attach that together right over the seam that you just sewed. Okay, now you can press that seam allowance and you can trim that down or finish it with your serger. Either way, it's going to be hidden, but just to reduce some of that bulk, you can at least trim it down. And so when you're finished, you should be able to fold your yokes up, and the only thing you will see are the right sides of both sides of the yoke. So now you're going to grab your front and working only on the yoke piece, which is the piece that is interfaced. Right sides facing, you're going to attach the front of the shirt at the shoulder seams. So it's going to look a little weird because you can see the interfacing on the right side of the shirt, but when it's folded, you're not going to see any of that. So it's going to be pressed on the edge here and then folded and pressed over, so you're not going to see any of that. So this the right side of your shirt is the side that you see the interfacing on, and so you're just going to attach that. Now you're going to attach the shirt together at the sides and then press those seam allowances. You'll want to go ahead and finish these raw edges with your serger. So I did not forget to do the slip stitching for the yoke. I'm just doing as much as I possibly can up until the point where I have to hand stitch. So just wanted to let you know that if you're following along with the written instructions. Okay, so for the center front of your shirt, you're going to fold over about 1/4 inch and press. And you're folding it towards the right side. Then you're going to fold over another 3/4 inch and press. And then you're going to repeat this on the other center front, and then you're going to top stitch just along the long lengths, and then we're going to baste the ends together. So along the right side of the shirt, you're going to top stitch about 1/8 inch from the folded edge here and all the way down, and then you're going to top stitch 1/8 inch along the folded edge on the other side. Ah, that looks beautiful. So this is where your buttonholes and your buttons are gonna go, and it looks gorgeous. So just do this on the other side. So now it is time to hand stitch. And so you've got your yoke facing here with the pressed folded edges, and you've got your shoulder seams pressed towards the back of your shirt, towards the yoke. And you're simply just going to fold your yoke facing up with those pressed edges over the seam allowance, and you are just going to hand stitch that together, and you're just going to do that on both sides. Just fold it up, lay those seam allowances on top of each other, and stitch. Okay, so I've got the yokes slip stitched to the shirt, so all of that looks good from the inside and the outside. And so let's grab the collar pieces and right sides together. We're going to sew down this end, across the bottom, and up to this end and back stitch. We're going to leave the top part open. You could trim that seam allowance down. Then we're going to turn this collar right side out and press it flat. Next, I want you to grab your collar band, and you are going to fold up and press 1/2 of an inch along that flat edge. So now I want you to grab your collar and your 2 collar band pieces, and we are going to sandwich the collar between those collar bands. So we're going to align the collar band to the collar with the circles that you mark on your collar band lining up at the edge. So you're going to have some hangover there. That's how it's supposed to be. And then you're just going to sandwich the other collar band and then pin those together. And then we're going to go ahead and stitch. For the outside edge, make sure that this uninterfaced collar band is folded up, and then I just like to go ahead and stitch along the edge of the collar. So when you turn it down, you could trim that seam allowance as well. Just trim that seam allowance. Okay, so now we're going to attach our one edge of our collar band to the neckline of our shirt. Just pin that together. And you're only working with the interface side of your collar band, just one layer. So now when you fold that collar band to the inside, you're going to press that seam allowance up that you just made, and then you're just going to fold that fold of that collar band over and slip stitch it to the inside in the same manner that you did the shoulder seams. So go ahead and grab your sleeve, and you will probably want to finish your raw edges along the sides of your sleeve before you sew your sleeve together. So go ahead and do that. Then once you've done that, then right sides together, you're going to sew down to your marking and back stitch. So now you're going to press that seam allowance flat. And even towards the bottom where it's not stitched together, you are still going to press that seam allowance. And then you can tuck under 1/4 of an inch just along the length that is not stitched together and press that. That's my shortcut narrow hem situation. Do that on the other side. Okay, now let's go back to the sewing machine. So now you're going to stitch that narrow hem that we just pressed. I'm actually going to top stitch this. I want you to stitch this regularly, but because I have a green thread in my bobbin, I don't want it to show on the outside of my shirt. So I'm just going to flip my sleeve right side out, and I'm going to top stitch. And I'm feeling where my narrow hem is with my finger. Now I like to go ahead and assemble my sleeves fully before I attach it to my shirt. It's just a personal preference, but you can attach your sleeve to your shirt at this time, or you can just keep going and finish out the cuff. And then once you attach it to your shirt, then you're done with your sleeve. So I'm going to continue on and move on to the cuff. So grab one of your interfaced cuffs, and along the straight edge you're going to press 1/2 inch. So grab that interfaced and pressed cuff and that uninterfaced cuff, and right sides facing, you're going to stitch them together along the sides, around the edge, and up the side, making sure that you keep this folded edge folded. And you could trim that seam allowance. And then fold that cuff right side out and press it flat. Okay, looks nice. Got that folded edge here, straight edge here. Grab your sleeve and the straight cuff, the uninterfaced cuff, you are going to match up with the base of your sleeve and stitch that together, just the uninterfaced side of your cuff, and then stitch. And then the same as before, we're going to press that seam allowance up and then fold that cuff with the folded edge to the inside, and you are going to slip stitch that together as well. So it'll just lay like that right over there, nice and neat, and you'll hand stitch all of that together. Just like that. And once you've done that, then go ahead, if you haven't already, attach your sleeve to your shirt. Matching up the underarm seam, right sides facing, you're going to stitch your sleeves to your shirt. Okay, now you're going to press that and finish the raw edges with the serger. Only thing that you have left to do now is to make your buttonholes at the markings. Sew your buttons at the markings, and you're going to do a narrow hem on the bottom of your shirt. So I'll show you really quickly how to do that narrow hem. So all along the hem of your shirt, since it is curved, you want to do a narrow hem. So I'm just going to show you the way that I like to do it. It's the pretty standard way. I like to go ahead and press my hem. Whether I use a narrow hem foot or not, I still like to go ahead and press because it just gives you a solid foundation. And so I just kind of like to eyeball about 1/4 of an inch, because you're going to need to ease in a little bit of that fullness, especially around a deep end of a curve like right here. And so I just like to finger press that up to get an idea of where I'm going to be pressing. And in fabric like this that presses really well, I'm actually getting a little bit of a crease here, so that's good. That gives me a really good guide to start with. And so I just go in and I press down. Looks nice and clean there. And then I go back and turn up another 1/4 of an inch. You're just basically turning it over along the raw edge that you just folded. Just kind of easing in that fullness and giving it a press along the way. And of course you were to do this all the way around the edge of your shirt, just demonstrating this area here. And then from here, you just simply stitch just 1 row along that narrow hem, and that's your narrow hem. So go ahead, sew your narrow hem, add in your buttons and buttonholes along the placket where marked, and you're done.